David Lau, welcome back to Aging with Grace 55 Plus. How are you today?
Terrific, Dale. Great to see you again.
Well, it's good to see you, and I trust you enjoyed the season of the advent of light and peace in the world with family, friends, and those whom you cherish. Hope you had a good season.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much. I hope you did, and I hope you did as well.
Yeah, we did as well too, and I think it's important for our listeners for Aging with Grace 55 Plus is to get right into it. The annuity recap. I was reading something from Alliance for Life Income. It was talking about a huge growth in annuity sales compared to previous years. What does all that mean, and can you unpack that for our listeners?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So the last 2 years, both 22 and 23 were record years
Hmm.
for annuity sales, and
Okay.
23 even being 20% larger than 22. So well over 300 billion with a B dollars in annuities sold,
Wow.
and it's record years. And what you really saw was a mix of annuities. When you talk about annuities, you're generally talking about fixed or variable. Variable are your assets as the client or the consumer are invested in the market, where in fixed, you're getting a fixed return from the carrier and some kind of guarantee. And you've seen fixed sales really take off. So it used to be that variable sales were 2-to-1 variable to fixed. Now it's flipped. It's
Hmm.
2-to-1 fixed to variable. And that has a lot to do with the interest rate environment we're in, where interest rates have risen, so much in such a short period of time that the fixed products are really attractive right now.
Well, you talk about interest rates rising. A lot of that has to do with the Fed activity. What do you see from information that you've looked at or folks that are predicting in terms of what the Fed is going to do with interest rates in this new year of 24? And how does that affect the annuities that your product?
The Fed, has really slowed down their increase, which it's hard to keep up the pace that they were increasing rates at. They
Hmm.
were increasing rates at historically fast rates in order to try to get ahead of inflation. That's one of the mechanisms that the Federal Reserve uses to try to tamper inflation, is to try to raise interest rates to the point that the interest rates are higher than the inflation rate,
Okay.
in order to slow it down. And since there have been signs that inflation is slowing down a bit, the interest rates have slowed in terms of the Fed raising them as well. And a lot of people believe that now with hopefully inflation rates coming down, let alone stabilizing, that the Fed will be able to start decreasing rates again.
Hmm. Well, against that backdrop, I'm pleased to say that I was reading where you were quoted in Kiplinger Personal Finance, which is quite a coup for you. You want to share some of the information that you what you commented on in Kiplinger's Personal Finance, including the what stimulated the growth and all those kind of good things.
Yeah, so we do get covered in a lot of consumer pubs. We're covered in the New York Times twice last year, and Wall Street Journal, and Kiplinger's, among others, Barron's. So we get quite a lot of coverage for what we're doing. But I think driving the growth is, we've had a lot of market volatility since
Hmm.
really COVID and before COVID, a lot of market volatility. So a lot of individual investors, particularly those in and around retirement, really would like to see a little stability in their portfolio.
Yeah.
So with fixed products, you can get that kind of stability or market protection. You don't have to necessarily, have all of your assets riding on the market and, potential market growth, because it goes up and down,
Yeah.
that market. And when you're in and near retirement, you really want to be, starting to, provide a little protection, take out a little of that volatility in the portfolio, so that you don't have to, weather the market ups and downs, and because that affects your income. Uh,
Yes.
it's one thing while you're still accumulating wealth or still, just saving for retirement, to be able to ride a little bit of the ups and downs. The market generally performs well over time, but as you
Hmm.
get to retirement, your time horizon's shortened. You don't necessarily have time to recover from a dip in the market. So having assets that, that protect your nest egg that you've saved, can be extremely important, in and around retirement.
I like how you continue, how your firm, DPL Financial Partners, and by the way, for full disclosure, I'm pleased to say DPL Financial, it continues to be a sponsor of this podcast series, Aging with Grace 55 Plus, and more information can be found at dplfinancial.com. David, what I like about your firm is that not only does it appeal to well-funded, to those with well-funded nest eggs, I should say, but across the spectrum, wherever you are on the retirement continuum, which is why this appeals to our listeners, they can still get into the annuities market, correct?
Sure, annuities, are for Main Street, as much as anything.
I like that.
And the way to think about annuities, and particularly when you're using them to generate that guaranteed stream of income,
Hmm.
they're almost like a personal pension. So
Mm,
to create a pension during your working years, really you and your employer are contributing to a pension fund. With annuity, you're gonna fund it yourself, and then it provides you, like a pension, a guaranteed stream of income, for the course of your retirement.
hmm.
And many people can benefit from that, whether you're a Main Street investor or you're wealthy. A lot of times it comes down to psychology as well in retirement. A lot of people aren't comfortable in the market anymore.
Yeah,
It's like I said earlier, it's okay, sometimes to ride the waves of the market when you're 40, 45 years old and you've got some time. When you start to be 60, 65, 70, that can cause a lot of stress.
hmm,
And annuities can really play a role in reducing that stress, providing you some predictive income. The other analogy I like to make, that an annuity can bring, is during your working years, people get very used to getting a paycheck.
correct.
And then in retirement, if you don't have something like an annuity, and Social Security is an annuity, by the way, it is the largest annuity in the world. If you don't have that predictable paycheck, it's behaviorally difficult, right? Too, how much can I spend? Is it okay to hit my nest egg?
Hmm.
What can I do? So a lot of people will use annuities and combining with Social Security to kind of make sure they're getting enough money on a monthly basis to cover, their core expenses.
Hmm. And David, when you talk about making an analogy, and I'm very visual, I'm sure a lot of people are as well. In the Kiplinger interview again, you talk about buckets. Could you kind of go back through some of those buckets and how that's important as we age and those of us who are close to the retirement?
Yeah, well, there are many strategies for funding retirement. And, part of what you need to do is make sure you're protecting against what's known as sequence risk. Where if the market is down at the wrong time,
Hmm.
that's really, can be harmful to your retirement. So if the market is down early, right before or right after you retire,
Hmm.
that's, pretty difficult on your future retirement. If you had 100,000, it went down to 90, you lost 10,000, that's
Right,
10%. But just to get back to even, you need to make 11%, right? A little more than
right,
11%.
right.
So a lot of people will use what's known as bucketing strategies. Let's put some assets that I'm going to use, particularly early in retirement, in a safe place. Whether that's cash, whether it's an annuity, whether it's something very safe that doesn't need to be at risk for the market, because that creates that income that you can rely upon early in retirement without having to sell out of equities in order to fund retirement, because
Okay.
that's what the sequence risk is, right? If you need to sell your equities when they're down, that's what you're always warned against doing. Don't sell low and buy high, right?
Right.
The market's down and you need to sell in order to generate income, that's a problem, because you'll have fewer assets that are able to recover when the market goes back up. So you
Hmm.
want to protect those equity investments early in retirement with a bucket of safe assets, that you can rely on, early in retirement for
Hmm.
your income.
Yeah, and again, that takes the emotional equation out of it, and it also offsets whatever's going on with regard to rising interest rates. Um, do you expect that trend to continue, David, in terms of where the economy is regarding interest rates and what decisions that have been made nationally on the economic scene?
I think it's, interest rates are likely to stay about where they are, perhaps
Hmm.
decline a little bit. But one of the things for individuals is nobody knows where the market's going, right?
Right, right.
Nobody in the literally nobody predicted we were going from historically low interest rates, 2.5 years ago, to some of the highest rates we've seen in decades in 2.5, 3 years, right?
Hmm.
Nobody predicted that. So you don't know what's going on, what's going to happen in the market. And all those prognosticators, you can tell you about all the things they're seeing and doing and whatever in the market, and they can tell
Yeah.
you it's going to be a great year for equities next year. They don't know. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they really don't, and that's part of why when we've had a lot of volatility in the market, a lot of individuals flock to more predictable investments like annuities. That's why annuities are having, historically good years, because a lot of individuals want, some more, predictability within their portfolio.
Hmm. And that predictability helps people to sleep well at night too, you know. Uh
That's a factor not enough people talk about, that
yes,
it
yes.
it's not all about, dollars and cents and what percent return did I get. It's the ability to enjoy your retirement and not be worried all the time. And I,
Hmm.
I use the analogies of my in-laws versus my parents, who, my parents had purchased an annuity, and he had helped my dad retire because he got finally a sense of like a plan that he could, knew how he was going to generate his income. And
Hmm.
my in-laws who've never purchased an annuity, who literally talk about the market and ask me these kind of questions every time I see them. What do you think is going to happen in the market? Do you think the Dow had a great day today? Had a
Right.
bad day yesterday? What did that do to me? So like it can help, getting those kinds of predictable income and predictable returns can really help in retirement. And it's one of the things, we also work with financial advisors. As we survey them, we ask them, what is the impact of annuities on your clients? And
Yes.
78% of them said, my clients are better able to sleep at night during retirement. They're better able
Mm.
to stay the course with their investments, during volatility.
Yeah.
And one of the, psychological advantages, to using, a tool like an annuity that can create predictable outcomes, returns, income, uh, for, an individual.
David, as we conclude, the one thing I've always liked about what DPL does and your business in general is, that this information is based on research, is based on on algorithms rather, which are constantly studying the market. And a lot of your information comes from the Alliance for Life Income data and statistics from them, from Ali for short. That is a very powerful, robust resource, is it not?
Yeah, the Alliance for Lifetime Income, is an organization that, one of the things they do is they have a lot of academics kind of on the payroll who, do research and provide analysis and insights around, how annuities can affect behavior, how they best work in a portfolio and a retirement plan.
Hmm.
So yeah, we like to rely on that kind of, research for giving advice to clients. So, I mean, a couple of things that, DPL does that, really impact the end consumer, tremendously are, one, as you know, we work with carriers to
Yes.
eliminate commissions out of products. So we drive low cost in annuity products that we bring to market. And then two, we use technology and analytics to help find the right product for the individual.
Hmm.
So, depending on who you are and what your goals are and, when you're looking to retire or take income, that affects which product is best for you. So, we don't just guess at that. We leveraged, technology, and we built technology to help, forecast, how these products might perform.
I love that. And for our listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this interview as much as I have with David Lau, who's the founder and CEO of DPL Financial Partners, which is a privately held financial services firm that specializes in the development and distribution of low cost, commission free insurance and annuity products. David is working with over 10,000 advisors from more than 3,500 firms around the nation, RIA firms. And David, for more information, again, we encourage our listeners to go to dplfp.com. Thank you for your time, David Lau. Look forward to catching up with you next time on Aging with Grace 55 Plus.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dale.
Bye bye.
Bye.
My next guest, Greg Lozano, is a licensed professional counselor with Growth Therapy in San Antonio, Texas. And he came across my radar screen because of an article that he wrote for Healthy Living magazine. And without further delay, Greg Lozano, welcome to Aging with Grace 55 Plus. How are you today?
I'm doing very good this morning, Dale. Thank you for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. And as we get into this, I'd like to talk a little bit about your background as we start talking about the article. I understand that you've been in mental health practice for about 16 years. Is that right?
I've been in the mental health field for about 16 years total. The last 2 years have been as a fully licensed therapist, a licensed professional counselor.
Mm-hmm. And in that capacity, we're going to move towards the senior spectrum with regard to this article that you wrote, Healthy Living in the Age of Social Media. And I think we can agree this is very important for seniors. And Greg, how do you suggest, or what are some of your recommendations from your article as it pertains to seniors and social media?
Well, Dale, I think it's a very good way for the senior community to stay in contact with others, um, be it close friends and loved ones, or just um, support groups as they relate to maybe health conditions, hobbies, or interests that they may share with others.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, so as long as it's used in moderation, I think it's a very good way to remain connected with others in their community.
I think, when you talk about moderation, I think that's a good watchword because social media can be overwhelming. At least I found the older I get, and as I talk to other guests, it seems like a lot of people are intimidated by it or they dive into it, Greg. And to your point, they do not come out of it. And it does become overwhelming, right? So what kind of barriers do you put up to protect yourself or limit the amount of time, if you will, for seniors, for aging adults to engage with social media? What's your recommendation?
Um, I think I think it depends. I think it's very individual
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to this. I think there's people that would enjoy interacting online a lot more than others. And I think it's a learning process for us getting to know each other as to how much we can be online in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly if somebody has the ability to connect with others socially, face to face, that would be the recommendation. But I understand that, there's people with in certain circumstances that have limited abilities to do that, and that's where social media can really come into play and help them.
Mm-hmm. You talked a little bit about when we were off mic. You talked about road rage versus a grocery store scenario in terms of how we react, right? And what kind of personalities we have. Can you unpack that a little bit, Greg, specifically this analogy and how it applies to us being online and maximizing social media?
Sure, absolutely. So I think where I was going at with that analogy was that the quality of our interactions is different when we're face to face than if we're online. And that's because when we're online, we don't have that physical barrier that could hold us back from interacting with others in a given way. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why I made that analogy to road rage. So when we're behind a car, we feel safer from any other person out on the road. So it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to cut others off without facing necessarily a direct confrontation. As where if we're in a grocery store instead, for example,
Mm-hmm.
uh, people don't usually cut in front of us when we're on the checkout line,
Mm-hmm.
and that's because there's a different dynamic that comes with being with others face to face directly.
Mm-hmm.
But
Which
as I
again,
was stating,
go ahead,
mhm.
buddy. Finish your thought, Greg.
So as I was stating before, that goes back to also the quality of the interactions
Mm-hmm.
between people. So if
Mm-hmm.
it's face to face, that's always it's more preferable. But I think social media can help that's when that's not so readily available.
Yeah. Is it the is it the anonymity of social media, if you will, or I'm sorry. Is it I'm sorry, let me start over. Is it the anonymity of being behind the wheel of a car? You don't know who the person is versus being in a grocery store line. I can look at you, I can identify you. So how do
Mhm.
you address that? Is that not part of the problem? Is one place you're rarely known, another place you're not known, which then can be a predictive of the behavior?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're gonna have an online community that you're looking forward to perhaps getting a certain benefit from it,
Mm-hmm.
uh, be it a support group or uh, being part of a group that shares a shared hobby or interest,
Mm-hmm.
then it can easily get out of hand. Because if you don't know who's on the other end, then the quality of the interaction is also much different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's about the only thing that I would really point out to seniors considering doing social media for their everyday interactions and wellness activities.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that research indicates, Greg, and you already know this in terms of seniors, and is that age as we age, we tend to want to mole in, we tend to want to pull back for
Mhm.
fear or just I just don't want to be bothered anymore. And so I guess this whole idea of not only social media but positive interactions is good for cognitive health in the
Yes.
brain of seniors. And how do you see that science playing out with regard to social media and the aging brain of seniors?
Well, what we do know is that our brains we have to keep them functioning.
Hmm.
We have to keep them active, and social relationships is also a very important part of our wellness. I think the research on loneliness has come out to indicate that loneliness can take its physical toll on our bodies as we age.
So, Greg, we've talked about your ideas. We've talked about suggestions for seniors to get engaged online, if you will, and to combat loneliness. And then, but as we conclude, I want to talk a little bit about your professional background. I understand that that you practice under the name of Branch of Wellness Counseling. What is that in San Antonio, Texas, Greg?
That's a um, private practice therapy that I created to focus on my mission to help individuals improve their relationships And I think that's where the article on healthy aging and living came into play.
Hmm.
Um, like I was stating earlier, I have a total of 16 years of experience in the mental health field. And towards the later part of it, I started realizing that a lot of our issues come from poor relationships. From the
Hmm.
time that we start growing up, uh, that's how we end up with depression, anxiety. And I just thought that I'd focus on relationships to help people overcome those types of conditions.
Hmm. Which I imagine get exacerbated as we age for seniors. I gather they kind of really dig into, or maybe they become those negative traits become more manifested in their personalities. Is that fair to say? Which causes more conflict?
Well, it could, yeah, because if you think about it, as we age, we get into life transitions that can put us at risk for uh, poor emotional health, such as empty nest syndrome, kids moving out. We start kind of losing our families in a way
Hmm.
because our children leave us and
Yeah.
they start their own families. And so if there were any issues before, then it may drive others away and keep them away. So it's always good to have good working relationships with our close loved ones.
Hmm. That's solid advice, Greg, and we'll leave it there, buddy. For our guests, I hope you've enjoyed listening to, for our listeners, rather, I hope you enjoyed my guest, Greg Lozano. He's a licensed professional counselor with a branch of wellness counseling in San Antonio, Texas, which is also listed on Grow Therapy, which is a which is a directory of for those who are seeking assistance with other issues in their lives. Greg, I hope you have a great day, buddy. Thanks for your time being on Aging with Grace 55 plus. I'll see you next time.
Thank you for having me, Dale.
Bye bye. I thought we'd explore the origins of Let's Make a Toast prevalent during Happy New Year's celebrations last week. Or you'll hear this often used phrase during weddings and other dinners honoring someone. Did you know the phrase, let's raise a toast, actually refers to actual toasted bread? You see, by the Middle Ages, the custom now known as a toast had evolved from the ancient Greek origins and was common in Europe. As the medieval era's culinary habits contributed to its shortened eventual name. Many meals at the time included a piece of soaked bread or toast known as sop. And during the holiday season in England, communal bowls were filled with a warm, spiced alcoholic drink such as mulled cider or ale, which were quite common. Some theories suggest that toast was used to augment the drink's flavor or serve as an accompanying snack. Not hard to believe given the prevalence of sops. Throughout the 17th century, the word toast became distanced from just the charred drink topper. By the 18th century, according to linguist Daniel Jurasky, a professor of linguistics and computer science at Stanford University, English dinner parties often honored a guest simply as a toast of the night, a tradition that eventually evolved into the verb toast, which is now common today. So now you know the origin of the word toast, and let's make a toast. You know the origins of that word thanks to our friends at historyfacts.com. And also, now it's my turn to make a toast to my sponsors, DPL FP, Financial Partners, and AARP Kentucky for featuring and making Aging with Grace 55 plus a reality. Many thanks to our guest today, David Lau, founder and CEO of DPL Financial Partners, for providing us with a recap of annuities and opportunities to protect and grow our financial assets in 2024. More information is available by visiting dplfp.com, offering and delivering value for clients and advisors alike. I'd also like to thank Greg Lozano, a licensed professional counselor with Grow Therapy in Texas, who wrote an article called Healthy Living in the Age of Social Media. And I think you'll agree that is so important for seniors. And his article was featured actually in the September issue of Healthy Aging magazine. Be sure to visit their website for the latest issue of Healthy Aging magazine, full of information, social, physical, nutrition ideas, all that we need, I submit, to continue to age with grace. Remember, aging is not a time of diminishment, but it's the application of some of lessons taught by some of our best teachers, including experience. And now for the last thought of the day from James B. Clear, author of the book Atomic Habits. Clear writes, "Good habits make time your ally. Bad habits make time your enemy." So until next time, this has been your host, Dale Josie of Aging with Grace 55 Plus. Please visit my website, awg55.com, to listen to past episodes of Aging with Grace 55 Plus, including purchasing a deck of 35 oversized playing cards for deeper, more meaningful conversations with the seniors in your life or community.